It's definitely you. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So we're in an occasion, we have an occasion, and occasion is something to not rush past, but to dwell in, till the wave of it, till the potentials in it, till the fullness of it, till the meaning of it rises and takes us forward. Occasions are really they're not clock time, they're heart time. The times when we touch into something that's potent, meaningful, tragic, wonderful, profound, horrible. And you let the wave pick you up, and you find your parami and move with it. So this is actually a very fortunate occasion. It's the occasion of the certain quality of fruition. This occasion has not just been today, but the wave has been rising for many years, and it's picked up a strong potential the last few months. The possibility where Vipassana feels it's got enough momentum in it to him to step back. It's a very beautiful sign. Such a experience feels, I can step back. It's not a person who wavers or flinches from duties. There's a feeling of, yes, it's ripe, it can move on. And certainly this occasion marked by this sense of this wonderful facilities being opened up here so more people can come in and take shelter, refuge, feel comfortable, feel space, listen to the Dhamma, meet each other. Many, many wonderful possibilities in this place, for children, for people to come, meet each other, listen to talks and so forth. So the fullness of that, I think we should dwell in that. And the occasion, so really this is, to me, Vipassana kind of more or less said it this morning already, and I don't want to move past that, what he was pointing to, because I think it's something we should dwell upon and take in very fully and really get the meaning of it. To me, this came up more or less as I arrived here, and the word that started to come into my mind was lineage, transmission, lineage. It's an interesting word. Taproot. And I came around and looking around the buildings, and then with Ajahn Dhamma, we saw this tree that had been growing outside the main building. And when I'd been here a few years earlier, when the place had been sort of sketched out, we were looking at this tree and thinking that tree might have to, the engineers feel it could be, possibly dangerous for their foundations, might have to cut it down. I think, oh dear. I came round, haven't cut it down. Oh, this is good. Yeah, and the same thing happened when at Chittaviveka we had a tree, not anywhere near as big as that, but it was a small tree, but a very slow-growing old tree. It was growing where we wanted to put a roof over a walkway, and they wanted to cut it down because it was getting in the way. Oh, no, that got here before us. That's an elder. You don't cut them down. It's an elder. It knows all kinds of things that we don't know. It's got deep roots. It knows how to grow. It's doing good for the atmosphere. It's beautiful. Don't cut it down. So we built the roof around it. Yeah, kind of cut a big notch in the roof so the tree could grow up through the roof. Yeah, that's the way you work. And the Vayagiri, of course, is a branch of a great tree. And it's beautiful to see that great tree has the roots that transfer into new soil. The root hairs grow down, spread out, reach across the planet, reach across time, get embedded. Great tree keeps growing. Yeah. So this is also this occasion, sense of taproot. And to dwell in it, because we've all heard Dhamma, we've got some understanding of it, and it's important to keep returning to that fundamental root that we have towards truth, towards integrity, towards faith, towards discernment, and just keep staying with that and poking it down into the ground. The root has fine root hairs, very sensitive, and it can probe, and as it grows, the root becomes very strong up near and that can support the tree. When you've got a strong root, it's both got this immense supportive structure that can hold the tree up when the winds blow. It's also got a sensitive, growing tip that can probe down, inquire, find nourishment and support the tree. So it both feeds and strengthens. It's gentle, it's sensitive, it's also firm. And this is a really good thing to bear in mind in terms of your Dhamma practice. It's got to have those qualities to it. That inquiry, that probing in, and that willingness to enter soil. Keep going. And of course we live in the soil of our lives, don't we? So in some ways the occasion is also this. The occasion is an occasion where we notice, bushfires sweeping across the planet. We notice escalating crises. We notice domineering attitudes. We notice bullying tactics. We notice violence. We notice a wave of this escalating quality of domination and brutality sweeping across our environment. That's also the occasion. This is why we have to dig deep. We have to go deep. This sense of the occasion challenges our normal understanding of time, which we think is clocks and tomorrow and so forth. But really, to bear it in mind that the heart-mind doesn't move in terms of time. Clock time is a structure, creation. Heart-mind, the citta, doesn't do that. That's why you can still be with problems you had 20 years ago. It doesn't move, it doesn't change just by letting the clock tick. Citta moves in terms of karma, in terms of acquisitions, in terms of its obstacles, and in terms of its push towards liberation. That's the only way it moves. It moves across that territory. And for that we have to really translate our apparent circumstances of, name and identity and town and job and so forth into real qualities, such as this is my uncertainty, this is my struggle, this is my friendships, this is my clarity, these are my, this is where I'm getting stuck, these are my stuck patterns and habits. Translate into that, then you know what you're really in. You're in the territory of one's quiet habits, phobias, addictions, and also in the acquisition of one's parami, one's blessings and strengths. And in an occasion like this, we have a big chance to tap into the quality of the parami, the perfections, the virtues, the strengths, the transmission of Dhamma. So this is a great day for us, really. And may the day be long, and may it last long in your hearts. Maybe something you can return to many times. And look around, feel the friendship, the safety, the spaciousness, the welcome, the clarity, the simplicity, the straightforwardness of it. Take a good look. Stay with it. Take it with you. Because this movement in time is a real obstacle for people. I just, particularly when one comes out of a poky little country like Britain, where we befuddle and fluster a lot, and sort of don't deal with things directly. We fumble, we look slightly embarrassed and so forth. Just you come to America and it's very different. It's very direct. And it's kind of in your face. It's also very driven. Just, wow, these things are really driven along here. It's a very driven and driving kind of culture. It really drives, You look at British streets, they kind of wind and bend. And American streets go straight. Cut through the hill, go straight. I think this is why you have problems. You don't notice the landscape. You're always looking at the horizon. I gave a talk in White Salmon the other day, and talking about detachment and getting some space around things, some calm, and so forth, and and dealing with feeling safe, and just opening the heart a little bit. So after the talk, a woman caught me and said, "Well, what do you do next?" I said, "Well, you just keep working with that, and wherever you feel some suffering, you start challenging that. What next?" I said, "Well, you do that, and then you just keep practicing with that. What about what next?" I said, "Well, you just got to." So I thought, look, you've got to get through greed, hatred, and delusion. Yeah, and what next? What do you call that? I said, "Well, we kind of call it nibbana." And then what? What next after that? It's like you haven't even got your boots on yet, and you're already heading, for the horizon. This is a mindset, isn't it? So we paused. I said, I think you're trying to understand everything and just work with where you are. She goes, "Huh?" Thank you. Okay. So to linger, to learn to linger. And this is the potential which you begin to trust. It's not a stupefying lingering. I've started to kind of call this wilderness training. Because, of course, our Sangha is forest Sangha. And we live in buildings, but essentially I like to keep recollecting, reminding myself, reminding others, even though we live in buildings, yeah, we have a vehicle, we have organisation and so forth, we have all that stuff. Still, our training is to live in the wilderness. Not because it makes you smart. It makes you agile. You don't take things for granted. You don't rush forward. You don't dither. You don't freeze. You stay awake. And nothing is exactly certain. And there's no strategies. Yeah. There's no straight roads. It's all curve and bend and find your own way. And it's stay alert. Yeah? And for this, there's a particular kind of attention that is primary and necessary. You have to disengage from rushing forward, panicking, complaining, worrying. You've got to disengage from these mental habits. Be alert. Disengage from sights and sounds, not to disregard them, but just to not react to them. And this disengagement, you find, strange enough, is this quiet centre, which I'm sure you've all, recognised and realised. There's a quiet centre that's awake, alert, attentive. It's called knowing, called a number of things. You disengage from that. And within that, you can start sounding the question, what's important now? What's fruitful now? Where's the wave now? And you start looking around. Yeah? In wilderness training, you do that, and you look around. Where are the birds going? How's the wind blowing? What are the clouds doing? And looks like that's the way. That's what you do. So when we train with this understanding, it means you come out of that rushing to what's next, and you wait for guidance to direct you. And there are several ways of disengagement I think are very important to cultivate. Disengagement is viveka, and it's sometimes structured or talked about in three particular ways: kaya viveka, citta viveka, and upadhi viveka. Simply, kaya viveka is to do with body, citta viveka is to do with the mind, and upadhi viveka is to do with sense of self, really, what are called the aggregates. And kaya viveka, often seen to be, just get out of the town. You need to remove your body, get your body out of that, off of Main Street. Yeah. And when you, clearly in the time of the Buddha, you could walk out of the village, and 2 miles you're out there in the wilderness. I think to take it more deeply, it means just really get yourself out of the mainstream. Yeah? Which means you're not jumping into the next, the rhythms, the rush, the consuming, the media saturation, the push-button internet access. You're not rushing down those kind of avenues which offer you so much possibility to rush down them and be captured. Yeah? You're not rushing down the street. You're not rushing into the stores. You're not rushing into, where the media is pushing you. You recognise those pushes, those seductions, those promptings, and you pull back because I don't trust it. Yeah? And so just cultivating this, like you can cultivate this when you're walking down, even when you're walking down the street in a town, if these towns still have streets in them, because some towns don't even have streets, they don't even have sidewalks, it's just all driven cars. But if you've got a sidewalk, you know what I mean. You walk down a sidewalk in a city and there's lights playing, go, 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 go. And there's things, bye. And there's things that are saying, stop, hurry up, get to. You just stay in your body. Walk your walk. Take your time. Don't lose your center. And you cultivate that in those respects. You cultivate that in breaking the habits. They're fairly, almost built-in habits in our physical environment. So you don't really have to go into the forest to do that, but it's certainly helpful to do so. The important thing is to get your body rhythms out of that driven, rushing, instant, hurry up, get there, zoom mode. It's your nervous system, you've got to disengage. And if you can do that for like half an hour, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, I got it down to 10 seconds, asking people to do 10 seconds. I wrote a little book about taking 10-second breaks. Somebody said, "Oh, that's great. If only I could get time to read that book. I keep it in my..." I love the title of it. I keep it in my office drawer. I really love the title of it. I haven't actually got round to opening it because I'm too busy right now. It says, take 10 seconds. That's a great idea. Yeah, I really do. I think I'll do that tomorrow. Yeah. It's just the nervous system. You realise you're neurologically wired into this compulsiveness. Once you start to see that, how it's eaten into you, how we've been steeped with that, and it's eaten into us, as this is the most beneficial, profitable way to operate. Panic. Grab, compulsion. Once you've seen that, hey, whatever you do, don't do that, Because when you're in these things, you don't know the alternative, because you're in it. Yeah. See, at that moment, you don't know what, but this is feeling bad. Just disengage. Trust that. Yeah. Trust that disengagement. This is the avenue for the Dhamma. All begins with that, really. And Citta-viveka refers to the patterns of the mind, the programs, the repetitive moods and compulsions, hindrances that we find ourselves caught in, condoning, the worry, the doubt, the despair, the irritations, just following them. There's always some reason why we can feel that way. We can feel uncertain, inadequate, irritated, lesser, intimidated, all these qualities, left out, resentful, jealous, all these things. And just stop, disengage. And when you're in it, when you're in doubt, when you're in worry, when you're in anxiety, when you're in it, you do not see anything else. You're in it. You do not see confidence. You do not see clarity because you're in doubt. So you can't say, "Oh, give me..." What you can do is know this quality is something you've got to disengage from. And disengagement means widening your mind, pausing, breathing out, finding your ground, taking your time. Don't follow this. Don't fight it, don't follow it. Open, soften, disengage from the rhythms and the chatter and the messages. There's a sense of what we call the witnessing, isn't it? But it's much more than just the seeing, it's also a feeling that, and a feeling to where do you find somewhere where it's not doing that. Yeah, it could be the space, it could be somewhere in your body, it could be the end of an out-breath. Where do you find some place within your field of mind that is not of that nature, not in the doubt, not in the worry, And you begin to sense with that tremendous realization is you're not your mind. At least you're not your conditioned mind. This is really important. And we train that. And this leads on to pariviveka, which is the sense of disengagement from the whole sense of self, which is not one thing, but the perceptions, that's the memories, the impressions. I'm this, I'm that, I'm not this, I'm not that, I couldn't be this, I'm never that, he's that, but I'm not. That stuff. And the reactions, the compulsive actions, where you start operating on that level. You just know this is not worth following. That's often the mode of practice is very much being able to recognize fundamentally what's suffering, what's unskillful, what's stressful, what doesn't lead you anywhere useful, and just disengaging from it. The first right effort is really to not follow that which is directly, stressing. And that's the advice of the first sutta. This is what should not be followed. It's the advice of the four efforts. Do not make an effort to not follow this. Yeah. And so it's an undoing, a non-doing, because when you're in that pattern, you don't know what you should do. You may have an idea, but you can't, unless you disengage, you don't feel the real thing. Disengagement and then trust. That's the act of faith. And faith is the opening. Faith is the hinge that swings the door. And then you begin to see there's a possibility, a little bit of self-confidence, a little bit of reassurance is necessary. And then just start making your way. That's the way it goes. So these are three very important developments or ways of talking about this fundamental property of viveka, disengagement. And from this is where we begin to get a sense of what's to be followed and what's not to be followed. And you found the head of the trail, yeah? Make sure your boots are tied on. Start trucking off that way. This is very much the training in our lineage, our tradition, and this is the training, even though we're now 21st century America, California and so forth, all these very, seemingly highly modern and contemporary terms, we're still training, we're carrying through here, the lineage, the transmission, carrying through here is we're learning to work in the wilderness. We're learning to trust the wilderness. We're learning to operate in the wilderness. We're keeping this going. And this is the training that is encouraged by all the great teachers in our lineage. And it's often not just encouraged as an idea, but set up. It's structured in. And the structuring in is it's in the line we call vinaya. So this sometimes is the piece that people don't really understand completely. I think vinaya really means just lots of rules of things you don't do. And that's part of it, but probably more of it, I would say, and more often encouraged and recommended and trained in is what you do. Yeah. You do take on duties. You do pay respects. You do look after this. You do care for that. You do work with this. You do, And it's not a frantic doing, but it's a steady. This is your definition. This is what you begin to form yourself within. This is where you begin to disengage from your compulsive self. This is where you begin to actualize the Dhamma as a living quality that you carry in your own body, your own mind, your own way of conduct, the way you sit, the way you stand, the way you walk, the way you relate to requisites, the way you relate to people. So it becomes a living vehicle, yeah, an embodied human vehicle that then stands out as three-dimensional. You can talk to it and walk, and witness it and see it being modelled. It's giving you kind of messages to your own body, your own emotions. You're continually being given those messaging models or those modelling messages, that are going on. And this is really, I'm pretty sure, looking around here, this has been a major part of what's been taught, trained, where the root, the taproot of the Dhamma has established itself in this time, place. Just you look around, you see the behaviour, you see the conduct. That's the right place. And you see the results. There's greenness, there's flowering, there's blossoming. And there's life, there's a transmission. So our training in the samana life is that sense of disengaging from the compulsive, neurotic patterns of our behaviours that come into our bodies, controlling, steadying, governing the body, moving steadily, calmly, one step at a time. Yeah. Correct ways of sitting, standing, addressing people. And these can seem just like kind of fussy details, but they're not. They are tiny, tiny, details in building up like a Dhamma body, you could say. That's not self. One of the fundamental things, you're paying respects, for example, something that we do a lot of, and it becomes an important part of how one practices. And certainly for myself, this has been, made me realise many things about my personality. Like, I don't want to bother him. You should pay respect, it's good to pay respects to someone. I don't want to bother him. Why do you think you're bothering him? I don't want to be a nuisance. Why do you think you're a nuisance? He doesn't have time for me. Why do you think that? It's not really necessary. What are you trying to escape from? I haven't got any questions. Why do you have to have a question? I don't need anything. Well, why do you have to need something? You start challenging these ways in which one has kind of learned to operate. I go towards people who either want me, or attracted to me, or I'm attracted to them, or I've got something important to deal with. No, this is not about that. And the feeling of intimidation, this is a great being, I don't want to get in his way, I'm a nuisance. And stop that. And you go and you just pay your respects. It's like you enter in that space of just, I'm open, I'm listening, I'm attentive. And you listen. And you notice a few things. And those are very beautiful times, because when you enter that, particularly in this relational sense, very often when that occasion happens, and the person looks around and says, I think you need to relax, Just simple things. Because you're in that very open state, quite obvious things go very deeply, because you've opened. You haven't rushed on. You haven't come with a set of strategies. You haven't got a set of demands. You haven't got a set of questions. You're just going open. You're not frightened. You're just open. And then, because of that openness, seemingly small teachings in terms of intellectual content go straight to the heart because the heart is open to it. This is often the way of the forest tradition. Be patient. Very simple teaching. Things change. Very simple teaching. Don't get caught up with this, that and the other. Very simple teaching. But when you go in with an open heart, it just touches those places in your citta, in your mind state, in your personal mindset. As you open up, those words, those go right into the places in your personal mindset where you're triggered, and release it. It's this an occasion, where, and we all live with other people. Everybody lives with other people. Do we ever find an occasion where you're just with other people, just open, rather than moving on? And deepening naturally occurs. There's a sense of respect. When there's respect, very naturally, some kind of affection or warmth happens by itself, and things occur that are meaningful and potent. This is a treasure to remember. This is why we cultivate such ways. We deal with our requisites with respect. Clearly, for a samana living on alms food, this is a great occasion, because every day, if you really notice it, it's driven home. You're living on alms food. You're living, you can't guarantee. There are no guarantees. You're just living on what turned up. Get it, And so you live with that sense of whatever's received, it came, it arose. I'm grateful for that. And therefore you're open to the beauty of generosity. And this is something, and being nourished, this is something again that I really think is very important for everyone to cultivate. Because of course it can seem like, well, I'm not living on alms food. I just go down to the store, get a whole bunch of stuff, cook it up. Where do you think the food came from? Well, it came from, yeah, but where do they get it from? Well, a farmer. Where did the farmer get it from? The earth. Okay. Are you grateful to the earth? Do you remember that? Do you just take what you need from the earth, or do you squander it? You're living on alms food. The earth is offering you food. Yeah? Do you live with respect for that? Do you feel blessed by that? Or do you think, we had that yesterday, I want one with, this kind of 15 different options. You think, oh wow, When you live in the wilderness, a handful of rice is good food, because it arose in an open space. And the more that we make our lives convenient and comfortable and assured, yeah, it's nice. But when they're convenient and comfortable and assured, you lose the blessing. When it's convenient and comfortable and assured, you lose the blessing. You lose the blessedness. You lose the gratitude. You lose the sense of the wonder of it all, because it's all been plotted and strategized, and we even get to think we deserve it, entitled to it. And where did that come from? So we relate to food, we relate to people, we relate to our robes. Your robe is some ways just, the idea is a pretty modest piece of cloth. The idea is you can make it out of a rag dragged off a corpse. If you know anything more modest than that, please let me know. You could say that is downright ultimate modest. Clearly we've gone up a bit since then, but the idea is still that is considered to be the standard when you go forth as a samana. That's what they tell you. Your standard is whatever rice is given, that's enough. If you've got a rag off a corpse, that's enough. If you've got enough shelter over your head to keep the rain off your knees, that's enough. And if you've got fermented urine for medicine, then you're all set up. They put that in the going forth. The idea is that generally we get better than that. No layperson ever offered me fermented urine yet. It might challenge me, but I hope I would at least pause, consider their intentions. Because when you start up, that's the bottom line. Everything else is up, isn't it, from there? And still, the sense is, even with the robe is a rag, we wear it like this is the skin of the Buddha. This is the banner of the Arahants. You treat it like it's silk, or like it's special, like it's delicate. You look after it. Tiny little hole in it, you fix it. You carefully fold it in the evening, put it over your robe rail, and you make sure the robe rail doesn't have any dirt on it. I'm sure this is the training here. You put your finger on, make sure the robe rail, no snags in the wood, you put the robe over the robe rail. Rather than just throw your shirt on the floor, And what is it doing? It's saying, live with this sense of disengage your compulsive, who cares habits. Disengage the sense of taking anything for granted. Disengage that, and then whatever you have, you treat it with respect. And Buddha, when he was advising Anuruddha on this, he said, then these rag robes will be just like the Benares silk, because they'll be blessed. Yeah? So, it's the sense within that movement, we're really learning to deal with very ordinary stuff. The stuff of the world. Everybody's got clothes, requisites, tons of it. Just dealing with that to transfer it from just being my belongings into being that which is looking after me. That which is, I came here naked, I came here naked and vulnerable. I got something to wrap round me. Thank you, and to consider where it came from and to make it that which is the easiest thing possible. Requires least destruction, least damage. So living respectfully in the earth is just such an important teaching, and it's been held in this Dhamma discipline from the time of the Buddha onwards. This is the lineage. It's this. There are duties that we do, and going for alms round is one of our duties. Alms, particularly in a country where the whole society is ready, open for it. You don't say, "What's the weather like today?" You go. You don't say, "Do I feel like it?" You go. You don't say, "Do I need to do it?" You go. It's your duty. You get up and you go, because you walk this into the world, and you realise the potential for it. And this, for me, this itself was also very enormous training. When I first took robes, going on Bindabat, arms round, it was a huge training, huge stretch in many ways, because there I am, and you go through a town, and people are clearly not that wealthy, and it's early morning. It's like 5 a.m. or 5:05 in the morning. They're not that wealthy, and you don't know them. You haven't done anything for them, and you haven't deserved anything, and they're not asking for anything back. You feel like, how do I do this? I feel awkward. And Niman. They put a spoonful of rice in your bowl. They don't want you to say thank you. You're not supposed to say thank you. You keep your eyes downcast, see the right, and walk on. And all your social gambits suddenly have been unplugged. Who deserves? Who's worthy? Please, thank you. I need. I can't. Sorry, I can't bother you. I don't want to disturb you. Right? Well, that's unplugged, and you're just left in this. There's generosity. Generosity is coming in. You have to receive it. And bits of your hardened self skin start to melt away. And you feel yourself strangely blessed, uncomfortably blessed. Uncomfortably blessed because, of course, I'm not worth it. I don't deserve it. I haven't done very well. My meditation is a disaster. My mind's impure. And I don't have much merit. And it's kind of going on. And they don't care. They just... And this thing goes on in your head about you're not worth it, you don't deserve it, you don't want to bother people, and you shouldn't be in the way, and after all they're poor people, and I'm scrounging off them like a lazy bum. They're just embarrassed, because British people have got the ability to be embarrassed at the drop of a hat. So you just see all that stuff crackling around, whirring around, and then just sit back and I wish I could just go out and buy some food. It's just too much for me, really. And it's supposed to be too much for me, because it gradually wears me away. It wears down those boundaries and my independence and my what I'm good at and being worthwhile and being not wears those down. And that's the main training. Giving talks. So I'd only been in robes 6 weeks. The teacher said, "I'm going to go somewhere else. You go and give this talk." I had to go and give a talk in a meditation class. Oh, God. I just about hardly afloat, and just say something. Just say something. And I did my best. I did, try to come up with something. Kind of figured it out first of all. His strategy, technique, system, and laid this thing out, which I'd heard him say. And thought, okay, got through that. And then, which was a meditation class, I had to go and stay in the local monastery. And so they said, "Oh, no, Prafarang, oh, Mr. Monk, you give talk. So we'll translate it." So they put this thing, I give a talk. So I started coming out with this, the nature of existence is so, no. More simple, please. Okay. When we're contemplating the form, no, more simple, please. Okay, eventually, meditation makes you feel good. Oh, sadhu. They say, "Why did you become a monk?" "Oh, because I was fed up, because I was suffering so much." "Oh, sadhu. This idea you've got to come out with some incredibly complicated intellectual, philosophical thing to blow that out. Just, So that one, coming to that, and I was living with Ajahn Succito for many years, and he had this deep end strategy, which is kind of suddenly you're doing something and push you into a deep end. And one of these, he'd been giving a series of talks at the Buddhist Society in London, and so it was my joy. I could go along. I'd go along as his attendant, and I'd put his sitting cloth down, and then I'd make sure the water's ready and everything's okay, and he could sit there, and I'd just sit and listen to him talk. And he was giving a series of lectures, and I'd sit there. So we're going through this week after week. I was getting into quite a pleasant state with it. And I got down there with him one day and put the sitting cloth down. He got up on the seat. I was listening. And he said, "Succito, you give the talk." Right. I don't think they're going to settle for meditation makes you feel good somehow. So you just have that moment, you pause, breathe in, breathe out. Okay, here we go. Yeah. And so that's... So many of these things, the theme is you get to this place, it's always pushing against your self-boundaries. And there's a duty to do it. So, it's not like just the Vinaya is always about not doing. It's about you have a duty. Your teacher has asked you, therefore, whether you feel like you can do it, whether you want to do it, whether you feel you're worthy of doing it, you do it. Or you try. You have a go, Whether you think you're any good at it or not, you try. Because that's the sense of the momentum of what we're in. Yeah. That's what's going to send the taproot down, deeper and deeper. If you're waiting for your conditioned mind to tell you that you're worthy, that you're adequate, that you're good enough, you're going to be waiting until the cows come home. You just do it. You just practice it. Yeah. And when you get to this point and after you've done it, your thing comes in telling you how you should have done it better, and you're not any good like that, that's the next bit. Who's that? You check that one. Just open. Here's the agitation. Here's the self coming back again. Go to disengaged, open space, and let the ripples die down. We'll see. Because we're in a lineage in which none of us have to be the one and only perfect, who's got everything done, absolutely top, unsurpassed. We don't have to do that. We all just throw our little bit in. It doesn't have to be the best, or the greatest, or the original, or the new, or the most profound. You just keep the flow rolling on, and somebody will get something out of it, for sure. Because anything that comes straight from the heart goes straight to the heart, and that's what we're doing. We're not really here to impart information. We're here to convey the transmission. And the aim of the transmission is it goes into your heart, not just a series of thoughts. It touches you and wakes you up and reminds you of your potential. Yeah, because this is the most important thing. Because the occasion is this, on one level. There's this lovely field of Dhamma blessings that we can touch into. We can see the results of it, the fruitions of it. We can see people, beings modelling it. We can live in an environment where we're sensing the safety, the openness, the gentleness, the respectfulness. We can live in that. Here we've got a chance to really sense some of the fruit in, human ways. Ways that just make us feel happier and better and more comfortable with each other and clearer and give us a sense of, there's something beautiful arises in this world. That's the occasion. The occasion is also this, isn't it? We're in a world on fire with greed, hatred and delusion. You have to bring the two together. We can't do this alone. It's our responsibility. And every time, whether you think you can do it, whether you think you can change things, how long it's going to take, whether it's all a waste of time, don't bother with that. Just do the good, refrain from doing the bad, put aside the anxiety. There's no time to be anxious. It's not an occasion to think of whether you're good enough for it. Just do it. And this is how it's going to grow. This is the way this has grown. Bhayagiri has grown. Chitta-viveka has grown. Forest Sangha has grown. Not through having some great central organisational model, saying, okay, send a platoon over there, a division over there, my strategy, just through touch into the good, where there's the invitation. Where there's the invitation, people willing to support, you go. Yeah, where there's the four requisites, the willingness to support is needed, you go. And you work, and that's where it comes from. And gradually this thing can grow. So then you see the results. Yesterday, just sitting in the Dhamma hall, very pleasant, sitting there in the silence, in the refectory, and pleasant conversation, bits of humour, occasional questions. Same thing this morning, community just laughing, throwing a few ideas around, working things out. Just working things out, Who knows how many people are going to turn up? Don't know. Who knows where you should put the cars? Don't know. Who knows how much food's going to turn up? Don't know. Just this is wilderness training. And then so this is where we cultivate, and one can begin to see and feel glad that there is this fruition. So this is our occasion. For me, it's an occasion to many things, but it's an occasion to be joyful, and we need the joy. We really need the joy. This is an occasion for it. Many beautiful things have occurred. Many people have found strength. Many people have found compassion. Many people have found they're bigger than they thought they were. Many people have reached out and found there are other people of a similar nature. Many people have found each other. Many people have found themselves. And may they continue to do so. This is an occasion for us to rejoice and be joyful. So I offer this for your reflection.